Hi, welcome to my friendly guide for moving from Excel to R. Today I'm going to show you how you can completely replace the pivot table in Excel with some basic functions in R, including group by and summarize. First, let me show you exactly what I mean in Excel before we move to R. If, for example, I want to calculate the mean of specific columns by specific other columns, I can add a pivot table. And then let's say I want to calculate the average bill length, which is one of the columns per each species. So I'll add species to rows and add bill length here in values and just tell it to average instead of sum. And I can add bill length again and tell it to compute the standard deviation. And I can also add the body mass, for example, and calculate, let's say, the average again. So I can keep doing that and get different averages of different columns per the three species in this penguin data. And now I want to show you how to do it in R. So let's switch to R. The first thing I want to do is read the tidyverse library. And the second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to load the data file. I'm going to load the Palmer Penguins library, and now once I get penguins here, I've got the same file as before with the same data and the different species. So okay, let's say we want to compute the average of specific columns like we did before with Excel. All we have to do is group by species and state what kind of functions we want to apply within these groupings. So we add the summarize function, and we can add bill length millimeter would be the mean of bill length. And let's add mean here, and I'm going to add an argument over here. NARM equals true would just omit missing values instead of showing up as missing values in our results. And let's also add the standard deviation. Be very similar. Again with the NARM equals true argument. And for the fun of it, let's also add body mass. Would also be the mean of body mass. And again, so once I run this, you can see we get a new table over here with the species and the average of the bill length and the standard deviation, the body mass, and so on and so forth. Now, another thing we can do is instead of specifying each and every column, we can also do summarize at. And we want to summarize, let's say, all the variables which contains millimeter. And then what we want to do is just apply the mean function. I'm going to turn it into a function like this. The point tells it to put the column where the point is, and we just add the NARM argument again. And notice what we got here. Instead of being very specific and specifying each and every column, the function just took all the columns with the underscore mm and just calculated the mean for all these columns. Now I want to show another something nice here. As a bonus, I'm going to show you a new function called across, which can help you do much more. So again, we're going to start with the same basic things, but instead of using summarize at, we're going to use cross. What a cross does is allows us to use a single summarize function multiple times and apply different functions for different types of columns. So let's select, for example, all columns which contains the mass, which is actually it's only one column, it's body mass, but you see here the body mass column is the only one containing the word mass. And what I want to do with the mass is let's just have it calculate standard deviation. So again, I'm going to use the notation like this. Now let's say in addition I also want to calculate both mean and standard deviation for all columns which contain millimeter. What I would do is just add another cross function for all columns which contain mm. And now this syntax is slightly more complex. We're going to use a list and tell it to add the word mean to the new columns for which I would calculate the mean. And within this notation I also want a standard deviation. So what R is going to do is it's going to find all columns which contain the word mass, and for each of these it's going to add the word SD, or not even add the word SD, it's just going to calculate the standard deviation. And then it's also going to take all the columns which contain the two letters MM, and for each of these columns create two new columns. One of them would end with the word mean and would contain the mean, and the other would end with the letters SD and would contain the standard deviation. So what we got here is an error because why? I forgot the NARM. There's no such argument as RM. So this is the correct version. And there you have it. We've got a new table. Let's view it here. We've got a new table. For the body mass, we got only the standard deviation. For the columns with millimeter measurements, which are bill length, bill depth, and flipper length, we've got both the mean here, the standard deviation, and then the mean of bill depth and the standard deviation of it, and so on. So a cross gives us much more flexibility than we have with just using summarize or just using summarize at, and that's it. Now you have it. This version of using group by and summarize is much more flexible and easier to use than what you would have used within Excel's pivot function. So until next time, if you found this video interesting, leave me a note in the comments. I'd like to hear about it. And you can also subscribe to the channel if you want to follow additional videos as they go out.